for this hearing, and I think anyone who has traveled the streets of the nation's capital or the highways leading into the nation's capital will also say thank you for today's hearing on how to fund the highway and transit infrastructure of our country so that it is sustainable, so that we don't have to come back in literally a few months because the Highway Trust Fund has run out of funds, as if that were any surprise. I do believe that anyone who heard Secretary Chow's testimony yesterday will agree that they did not hear any real plan for investments into infrastructure, but I am encouraged by what appears to be the president's openness to higher gas taxes. One thing seems clear: it takes money to fix the highways, and for a quarter of a century we've been under the illusion that that's not really the case. So I hope that the president's apparent openness to higher gas taxes can inspire the committees of jurisdiction, the Highway Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, to finally to act. Last year, Chairman Graves and I got 250 members of Congress with very robust representation on both sides of the aisle to sign on to a letter to the leadership of the Ways and Means Committee urging a prominent solution to this Highway Trust Fund crisis. In this letter, we specifically urged a long-term, dedicated, user-based revenue stream that can support the transportation and infrastructure investments. I mean, I hope those words don't sound like cliches. The only way to say them, and we've been saying them now for decades without any results. We do all agree on two things: the importance of infrastructure investment to our national economy and the need for real investment to improve our infrastructure. Our disagreements start with, and perhaps end with, how to pay for it. It seems to me that today's subcommittee hearing shows that we are well past the point of glossing over the problem and again saying the tabloid words, all options are on the table. What are they? Congress needs to make tough decisions, as always, and find a permanent, long-term revenue stream for our highways and bridges. Many of the so-called options, such as finding cheaper ways to borrow, will not produce real revenue to make a difference in our infrastructure backlog. Other options, such as public-private partnerships, and I commend the committee for the special committee on which I was among those who served on P3s, or public-private partnerships, because this committee did a very thorough investigation of P3s. But I believe that all those who served on that subcommittee, or that special committee, will agree that P3s are perhaps best seen as a rather expensive scheme to borrow private money, certainly borrowing more money than we borrow in the federal government to do the same thing. Far too many projects simply have no revenue stream attached to them to pay for a P3. And of course, you have to pay for the profit margin as well. Transit P3s rely on dedicating decades of future tax revenue to pay the investors and slashing labor benefits to protect profits. Yet another option, tolling. Let's deal with that one and see where the American people stand on tolling. A Rasmussen survey found that just 22% of Americans favor putting tolls on interstate highways for infrastructure maintenance. 3 times that many, or 65%, are opposed to turning the nation's interstate highways into toll roads. Pushing tolling on urban areas is just not the answer. That leaves real user fees. In other words, we're back to where we started, back to where the Eisenhower administration started us. And if we think we're smarter, we certainly haven't proved it since then. The politics of raising the gas tax has paralyzed the Congress for a quarter of a century. And yet 24 states who are represented by members of Congress have simply not had the same hesitation, including some deeply conservative states that have raised their gas taxes over the past 4 years. Today, I'm very pleased we will hear that the Chamber of Commerce, State Departments of Transfer, and the trucking industry support higher gas taxes. Now, these are the folks who are going to have to pay them, and they are for them. We have heard multiple reports, of course, that the president supports the gas tax. So I think and hope that with this hearing, the reality is beginning to settle in, that there is what appears to be an American majority for raising the gas tax. The FAST Acts also funded an alternative funding demonstration program for states to experiment. I thought that was the great leap forward. It was only $20 million, as I recall. Today, we will hear from the Colorado DOT, Department of Transportation, on behalf of the Western Road Use Charge Consortium. They will describe the possible future of a mileage-based user fee and the benefits this system can have on providing a sustainable long-term funding stream. It's really the only new idea. In the new world of Uber, Lyft, and the autonomous vehicles, there are many unknowns, and I'm pleased that our subcommittee has had hearings on some of those unknowns. And we don't know how these technologies may affect our infrastructure assets over time. However, in the immediate term, we face a massive infrastructure backlog that continues to mount while Congress does nothing, and that needs to be rectified first. These new technologies do not eliminate that need. I'm grateful again to Chairman Graves for holding this hearing and look forward to our continued work together to hold the Ways and Means Committee's feet to the fire to deliver the funding for our nation's highway and transit systems. We can't afford to wait any longer. I thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Now turn